South hemisphere charts that I experienced some things.
Okay. So
So if
you
you
want to
wanna,
start? You want to start with them?
yeah, I can just tell you just quickly.
Okay.
The one of them, so the one that's Peru.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I my first plant medicine
Yeah.
retreat, and so that's significant. So I don't know what you look at for plant medicine. I'm not sure if you look at Jupiter for that or Scorpio. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I've got the chart up here, so take me through what you want to say. Can you see
Well,
my screen?
yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay. Yes.
But no, I'm talking about the ones that I sent you
Yeah. Isn't this what you
by
sent me?
email. Did I send you this one? Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's plant medicine, not planet medicine.
Okay. I was typing a bit fast, but
Yeah. So I don't know where you would see that. I would have thought, you put my birth time 10:25.
because that's what I used in the Vedic.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not sure Pluto's in my 12th house.
You want Pluto to be in your ascendant?
Yeah, Pluto's in my first house.
Yeah, it's on the first house. It's in the same degree as the ascendant. Use a 7-degree orb for the angles.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Hmm.
So this was significant. I don't know if you can see now. An experience that I can tell you that I've always had in South Africa, whenever I'm in Zimbabwe, in even Peru, in Australia, what was interesting about those trips was okay. I experienced better relationships in those areas. Now, relationships, not just like, I mean, all types of relationships, but especially so with like one-on-one relationships. And these were not like, they weren't really long-term relationships, but I mean, they were people that I was, let's say, having an experience with. And so I could see a huge difference between when I was not like, when I made those trips and there were people that I was connected to there, they acted very differently towards me. Very, like, I remember, Theo, like, I remember saying to myself, like, how is it possible that this person is acting towards me like this when this person didn't act like this, a few days ago? Like, the experiences I would have were very interesting.
Could you give me one example just so I get a sense of what you're...
Okay.
There's no judgment here, so it's just...
Yeah, no, I probably judge myself. So okay, so there was a guy that I was talking to, and well, it was a close, I don't know what the definition of relationship is, but I'll just say like connection.
Okay.
And there were some issues, but I met him in Australia, and when I met him in Australia, he suddenly was acting, I don't know, Theo, it's like, I swear I was thinking of this image of like a puppy that would follow somebody around. Right. Like that. That's how he was acting, which was so weird. And I felt a bit self-conscious about it, like, do I trust this person? I don't know, why is this person acting like this? I'm not sure I can, try, but nonetheless, it was a very nice experience, to be honest with you, to have that kind of reaction or attention, which was not the case at all. The same thing happened in Peru, also with somebody like 3 years before.
What did this person do, like, for their living? Tell me something about. Were they making pottery? Were they doing paintings? What was their thing?
Both of them were spiritual people. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what? So you just making that observation that there was a difference in relationships.
I mean, it was really nice because I'd never experienced that in my life before. Like somebody really like paying attention, kind of like noticing I was there, and I did not experience that before. And I thought it was weird, and I didn't try to like explain it. I was just like, yeah, you know what, this is just a nice experience, just take it as it is, and just really don't hold on to it as it's like something that's sustainable. But it was nonetheless, it was pretty nice. Another thing that happened that is similar in South Africa, for example, whenever I go to South Africa, I make a lot of friends. Now, I can easily make friends with people, but I don't like people too much. Like, I prefer staying at home in my own space. I really do not feel like chatting with people if I don't really get along with them, to be honest. So I'll never show that. But in South Africa, it's so funny. Like, I have most of my really good friends are in South Africa, and I would go out. I would go to, let's say, shops, and I'd go into a crystal place, and then I'd make friends with the people who are selling the crystals, and then the same day they would be like, hey, you want to go hang out? And I would be like, yeah. And they're like much younger than me, and I spent like the first day like 7 hours with these people that I had no idea who they were. And then my friend came over, my work friend. We were both traveling together for work, and she's like, and they're like, oh, do you want to go to this? We were in Johannesburg. Do you want to go to this? There's like a mountaintop where they watch the sunset. And I was like, yeah, let's go over there. And then my friend looked at me. She's like, oh, these are your, since when did you meet these people? I was like, yeah, just a few hours ago. And she's like, and you trust these people to take you to like somewhere that you've never been? And I'm like, yeah, of course I trust these people. Now, okay, my moon is in Pisces, but that's not how my moon acts. That's not how my moon acts. And I just like, I venture into places that I wouldn't normally do, actually. And I noticed, like, I've been to South Africa many times over the course of like 8 years. I go twice a year. So I've been there a lot of times, and I've made a lot of friends there. And it's the same. I don't like being inside there. Like, okay, I thought it was the environment, I'll tell you. I thought it was just that I like nature, and so I'm happy to be in Africa. And I know my Venus line runs through there, but still I noticed this contrast between me here and me in South Africa, for example. So it's very different.
Okay. And what would you like me to do? Do you want me to explain that to you?
Yeah, do you see that? I want to see that. My chart. The last one, sorry, is the Melbourne airport. I told you about that one. It was when they stopped me and searched my luggage for like 2 hours. and really like it was very traumatic actually. Like the way that they were talking to me, and because I had like sage and other herbs with me that I was carrying, and I don't know what they thought it was, you know, and they were very insistent that I was like carrying something illegal, and you know I've never done that, and I wouldn't, you know. But the way that they treated me was very disrespectful, and I just broke down and started crying. And I couldn't even answer their questions, which actually made it worse. You know, like they're asking me questions that I couldn't even answer them because I was like, how can you treat people like this? Like, you know, so it was, that was very
How did you get out of that situation then?
Well, they kept me there for a long time. So I asked to see the supervisor, and like I waited till I calmed down, and then
was it like 2 hours that you were waiting there?
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't want to let me go.
And then when the supervisor came, what happened?
Well, you know, they searched everything I have and they couldn't find anything, and I was like, what do you want now? Like, you've searched everything. Like, what exactly do you want? But I was making a point that you can't treat people like this. Like, I wanted to make a big issue out of it because it's not about searching someone's bag, but it's about the way that you do it, the way that you talk to people is not acceptable. Like, it's not human. It's not acceptable. And so yeah, I wanted to make a big issue of it. I was traveling with a friend, and then my friend was really trying to like calm me down. But then the officer wouldn't allow the friend to talk, and then.
So what eventually happened when the supervisor came?
Well, they just let me go after that. But I mean, they didn't really respond to me, or it was the younger guy that was really like harassing me and treating me like extremely disrespectful.
So let's talk about the first thing, which is Southern Hemisphere chart.
Yeah.
So you rule by Venus, okay? From where you were born chart, Venus is your chart ruler, okay? So that Venus is in the 12th house, so you prefer to be a homebody and private, things like that, okay? And Venus is in fall, so it's very much, you know, also the self-judgment, the self-criticism that comes through with, you know, Venus in Virgo in the 12th house. So that's number one. But when you go to the Southern Hemisphere, that same Venus, your chart ruler, okay, now all of a sudden rules the 7th house.
And that's so cool.
Okay. So rules the 7th house and is exalted. Okay. So the other people that you start to meet are exalting you in a way. They are kind, they are nice. It's all Pisces sort of experience. Okay. Now, and Venus, interestingly enough, has a connection to Uranus, has a connection to Neptune as well. I mean, you can see that Neptune, Sun, Venus, Uranus, all are around similar degrees.
Yeah.
And Mercury. So you could say that, yes, the ascendant is the midpoint between Sun and Neptune. You can see that. All right. So that is having an impact. Whether it is Libra rising or Aries rising, Sun, Neptune together having an impact. So this thing about who am I, my goals in life, that issue is very important for you to feel that you can make life decisions, because that is what's impacting the ascendant. That also has stuff to do with the father, but we're not here to talk about father stuff. So,
Oh, but I have father stuff.
no, I know, but I mean, I'm not going to go psychological unless we really have to. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, I won't jump to things that I'm not going to jump to vulnerability points unless we are prepared to talk about them. But this is a session that we are focusing on, like you were saying, what you're doing with your life. So, and that's sort of what you also said to me on Messenger, that sense of vagueness and things like that. Yes. So that is the reason why it is so sensitive, I would say. So so the shift in partnership or relationship, and you see the same thing. I know, remember we said Vedic astrology wise, partner will have strong Pisces signature, remember?
Yeah.
Now we are seeing with the tropical zodiac that, that's more likely to happen in Southern Hemisphere, because the tropical zodiac is saying, relationship 7th house is going to Pisces. Venus is in Pisces. So from the tropical zodiac, we can maybe say, well, in the Southern Hemisphere, relationships will probably be better. Your chance of meeting that person is higher, okay? And that's been your experience in terms of your whole energy about meeting people is very different. Your whole energy about being social is very different. That sort of, I'm willing to step outside. I'm willing to be less, self-critical, more the Pisces Venus, and trust. That's a big thing with Pisces, sort of blind faith sort of thing going on, which people were telling you, you're just going with these people. That sort of thing. So that is there. Okay. Now, if I talk about the Melbourne experience, also with the Southern Tropical chart, right. So you were traveling with a friend. So first of all, the 9th house here is Sagittarius. And that is Jupiter, that is conjunct Saturn, who is the 11th house ruler. So that shows you're traveling with a friend. And they're both in the sign of Aries, so the experience is going to be Aries. And at the time that was happening in Melbourne, this chart, Mars was in Aries. Okay, so, and in the Southern Hemisphere, the Mars rules the 8th house. Okay. Which is Scorpio. So feeling restricted, feeling like you're being, that Scorpio, like emotional manipulation or dominance sort of energy coming through and how you're being treated. So that is there. Now, the moon is also on that day, at that time, squaring Saturn. 6 degrees, 6 degrees. The moon is also very strong in its own sign, all right? So that for me makes Jupiter even more important here. So what's happening is that Saturn is in fall. Saturn is the one, the servant, the employee, the government worker, okay? They are feeling inferior for whatever reason. They are projecting that inferiority or disrespect. Saturn in Aries in the 1st house is like, there's the younger person is the problem, because Saturn in Aries is like a very young sign, and Saturn is a very old archetype. So Saturn in Aries has this age problem, ageism, right, thing coming through. So either the older person will not like the younger person, or the younger person will not like the older person. So that's Saturn.
If I may just confirm this, the guy who was making the problem was a very young guy, police guy, very young, and he was about like 24 or 25, and he's talking to me like in a very disrespectful way.
Yes.
And he's engaged. I could see he has a ring in his finger, and I was telling him like, would you like someone to treat like your if you had a sister or your fiance like this? like, would you accept that somebody treats them like this without having any like hard evidence? You know, and he got even more, that really got him even more upset, you know, and like, yeah, he was just trying to control. He was using his status, and he clearly had some kind of like inferiority complex.
Correct. That is shown by Saturn in Aries. And Saturn here, remember, is the 11th house ruler, so a friend was involved with you. Jupiter is the 9th house ruler while you're traveling. Okay. But the good thing here is that you are able to come out of the situation. You waited roughly 2 hours because there's 2 degrees between Saturn and Jupiter.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So these things, these things were there, but you also have what is happening. I want to say, yes. So the reason why you came out of that 12th house situation, because usually when Saturn is doing negative things in the 12th house, it holds you down. It's sort of an imprisonment sort of feeling, okay? Because Saturn loves the 12th house. You're feeling restricted. He always likes that. That's Saturn's nature, to first restrict you before you go forward. Or even if he's giving you stuff, it will happen with a delay. So that's the nature of Saturn. And in Aries, he really, really resists that, because Aries says, I want to move forward quickly, fast. And Saturn there says, nope, sorry. But Jupiter helped. Jupiter helped. Jupiter will always help. Okay? He's the 9th house ruler here. All right? So eventually the traveling has to happen. But also what helped here is that Saturn is in Aries and Mars is in Capricorn. So you're able to come out of the situation because they are in each other's signs.
Yeah.
Okay? So a 10th house person, Mars exalted, the supervisor, right? That person will come and replace the Saturn. When that person comes and replaces the Saturn, then Aries is very strong. Then we're moving forward. And that person will support you because you are ruled by Aries in this chart, in the Southern Hemisphere.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? So that sort of shows that. Now, the plant medicine. Now, you didn't tell me what happened with the plant medicine thing. You're just asking me where I would see that? That's what you're asking me.
Yeah, if you, well, it was my first experience with plant medicine. I was very scared. I went there because I wanted to stop. I was taking antidepressants, and I wanted to stop them. And I tried many things, but they didn't work. And so I said, I'm going to try plant medicine. And I went to Peru, and that was the first. I was successful in that. Actually, I was able to stop them after. So it was actually an important time for me. Like I was there roughly 12 days, 10 days. I was 10 days without the travel. So that was actually a big turning point. So there it must show in chart.
You were there for 12 days doing that
10 days, yeah.
10 days doing that thing. Okay. All right. So, I mean, one of the things you can see here is, right. Let me just, okay. So, how would I say this? Here you are ruled by Mars, okay, in the Southern Hemisphere. And as Mars is in Capricorn, so wanting to sort your shit out, okay? Mars exalted, okay? I'm taking my work, my 10th house, my activity into my own hands, okay? Now, Mars here is being squared by Uranus, right? And in the natal chart, in the Southern Hemisphere, Uranus is in the second house in Taurus, indicating something to do with food, something that you're putting inside your mouth, something that you're putting into your body. Because Taurus in the second house is about putting things into the body. And so that is showing something new. You want to go somewhere, because seventh house Uranus is saying, go away, do something new, a new kind of experience, new kind of people that you're meeting. Yes, it also is about substance use, because the ruler of that Libra Uranus is in Pisces in the 12th house, indicating substance use. You want to disconnect, you want to have some elevated upliftment happening, okay, with what, with you, right? So that's one way to look at it. You also have that Saturn, transiting Saturn, connecting to the Mercury in the chart. And in the southern hemisphere, Mercury rules the sixth house, Virgo, which is about our health. And it being Mercury, it's also about the mental health. And Saturn squaring Mercury is saying, there's something happening here. This is an Aquarius Mercury, so really mental. I'm getting too stuck in my head. Need new thoughts. I need to get out of that. So really, this whole thing is coming because of the Mercury. The Mercury is ruled by Saturn, who is squaring Mercury. Saturn is squaring Mercury from the second house, Taurus, again indicating something to do with the food. The other ruler of the Mercury is the Uranus, and that is connecting to the Mars, saying, well, if you want to do this, you got to have a ninth house Mars experience. Right? You got to take action and sort it out, because Mars is controlling the body here. It rules the first house. So that is there. So Mercury ruling the sixth house is showing that you're feeling mentally ill, mentally afflicted, right? Ruling the sixth house. And we're going to go that way. And if you see transiting Mercury is 10 degrees away from the ascendant.
Yeah.
So you were there for 10 days.
Wow.
And so when that Mercury from the 12th house transited to the ascendant by degree, you came out of it.
Wow.
You came out of the 12th house. That Mercury came out of the 12th house. And you also, and again, just like in the Melbourne experience of the airport, you're having the moon connecting to Saturn. So the Saturn is having very strong impulse here. Because what I feel these experiences are showing is that they activate the moon, both these two times, Melbourne and here, the moon is activating Saturn by degree. Yeah. In Melbourne, it was at 6 degrees of Cancer, squaring Saturn, so it was sort of a negative experience. But that Mars still pulled you out. Here, it is sextile with Saturn, so it's still giving you a Saturn kind of experience. I need to sort my issues out, 12th house Saturn, okay. And the Mars again is pulling you out. Because Mars here is showing you are taking direct action yourself independently. Because you want that impulse, you want that freedom, you want that upliftment. And it may have been quite a spontaneous decision then. Because it was. Mars Mars exalted squared by Uranus is pretty much like all of a sudden, but it builds up over a long time, and then suddenly you just say, right, I'm going to do this thing.
So funny. Yeah, I decided like really quickly, and just like in 2 weeks I left.
Yeah. So like that. So there you go. That's explaining it using the Southern Tropical chart very nicely.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. It does make sense. So this seems to support the transits are also happening as per Southern Hemisphere.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Right. And then we can come to the other things you wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Which you didn't send an email about it, but I'm assuming it's to do with your career and your work situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So Theo, every person that I've had this session with, and I've had a lot of sessions. I mean, really a lot of sessions with many different people.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's telling me, yeah, you should. I mean, easy for you to shine, to go out there and share your, whatever experiences and share yourself. And frankly, that is not the way I experience it at all. All my life. Like, I have done many things. People, like, for example, you see a lot of people doing, I don't know, Reiki, doing crystal healing, astrology. And then they pick something up and they use it. And they move, like whether they move, work-wise, they move towards things that they like more. They move as in they get into relationships. I just don't move anywhere. Like, I move internally. That's where I move. Like, that's the experience that I have. I've done so many things, and they're not just like minor things, like the number of courses that I've done. I did like a 6-month extensive course on crystal therapy. That was one of the courses that I did. I with like really prominent people. What did I do with that knowledge? It's just there somewhere. I'm not able to use it. Now people tell me, oh yeah, you should do this, you should do that. Why don't you come do this? And I don't feel like I can, for example. I don't feel like I can. I don't feel like, I don't feel ready enough to do that. And it's not a nice feeling, that people think that it's easy for me to do something. Well, it's easy for me to do something for myself, but or for other people, but it's not easy for me to put myself out in society, and people think that that's where I should be. And I would like to feel that to be honest with you, like, I don't like mingling with society. I don't have, like, how people have like groups of people doing things together, communities. I don't feel that way at all. I don't have that thing at all. And there's a part of me that would actually that needs it, but I can't get myself to do it. Like, I can't find it. I can't find some tribe or a place where I feel like I belong, or I want to contribute. I don't feel that.
Right. So
I want to see it.
So tell me what was happening to you. There's 2 years that I'm picking up here. So, and it may be the year before or after, but so the year 2000, what was happening in your life?
The year 2000. That was a mess. Where was I? I was studying.
Away from home, very restless, Not even if you have a house, you're not staying inside, you're outside all the time. Something like that. What was the feeling? What was your sense of I'm accomplishing something?
No, I was severely restrained.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was chained.
Right.
And I wanted to be free, but I could not be free.
Mm.
Like, it was when my father left.
Mm.
That was 2 years into my father disappearing.
Yeah.
And so my mom was going through some really severe, I don't know, like
Okay.
panic attacks every day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my older brother was off doing drugs in Canada. Like, yeah, it was just, and I had to study. I had to keep up with passing, and getting good grades, and
Okay.
was just,
And then
and yeah.
And then the other year is 2009.
Yeah.
So what was happening then? Or what was not happening then? Rather put it that way.
2009. How old was I? That's 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Well, that's roughly when my father showed up again.
Good.
And also, I had a very, very, very bad experience. Very bad.
Right.
So with a guy, with a relationship.
Yes, compromise of personal security and emotional integrity and safety. So what is happening, these 2 years are linked, you can see.
Yeah.
So, right. Okay.
How did you get those 2 years?
I feel them.
Those were serious Chiron transits for me.
So this is the problem. This is the problem that has to be overcome. So I just want to bring up those 2 years just to give you a sense of where the sort of lack of direction is sitting inside you. Where is it coming from? These 2 years and the experiences of these 2 years has conditioned your work energy. So, for example, everyone that you've had readings with before has said, go out and do things, you'll be fine. Why? Because they saw sun in the 11th house in its own sign. And one of my rules is that when planets are in their own signs, they are very vulnerable because they're at home. They're not doing work. So what is that inner sense of personal self-esteem and sense of self-respect? What is happening to it? The sun in Leo is saying, I'm born with that, but what are you doing with it? What is happening to that? And for the sun, it will be controlled by Mars. So Mars is in Cancer, debilitated in fall. So what happens to that self-esteem? You have Mars experiences, and that sense of the self and dignity and respect gets thrown down. Through Mars experiences. Mars in Cancer is drug abuse, family separation, mother issues, father issues, all Cancer problems. Okay? To do with home, emotional security, personal security with our body, and the obviously issue with partnership came through because Mars rules the 7th house. So that is the problem. That has been the problem. Mars is squaring the ascendant. Mars is squared by Pluto. It's not a nice experience. So, right. Now, because the sun is in Leo, that is number one, the elder brother is also having that problem because 11th house is older siblings. The sun also represents father, generally speaking. So there's also something happening with the father. And also something happening with your sense of group consciousness, your self-esteem, your identity with other people, with large groups of people is also being affected by that. Because of these Mars experiences, you are becoming more reclusive. The 11th house is shutting down, right? So that sunlight is being taken up energy-wise by these experiences. So the first way to get it back is to re-empower yourself. Because when you came to the southern hemisphere, what happened to that Mars is that it completely reversed. In the southern hemisphere, that self-esteem and all those things are being replaced again. People are liking you, you are liking people, you are engaged. That 11th house becomes, again, very strong. Sorry?
It's crazy, Theo, how drastic.
Yeah, it will be drastic because it goes from fall to exaltation. It's like complete extreme manifestation of the Mars. So, northern hemisphere, the Mars also has problems with relationship. The 7th house ruler is in fall, causing all these problems. And the controller for relationship in general, which is Venus, is also in fall in the 12th house. So very difficult experiences with other people, home, family, very restless in the heart sort of energy. It creates, security compromise. That's Mars. Mars is trying to protect you, but Mars in Cancer is saying the most deepest part of rooting in home and family and Cancer, I am being compromised. Okay, so that is just that sort of experience. So you know what has happened in those 2 years. You can sit with that and work through that. But if you, and that's why that Mars is affecting that 10th house. It's bringing that 10th house right down. It's bringing that sun right down. Okay. So what is happening? The way you're manifesting it is that you're having 10th house career happen in southern hemisphere all the time. So in the southern hemisphere, that Mars is supporting the 10th house. But in the northern hemisphere, it's not really supporting. The family issues will be exacerbated. I'm assuming all the people that were having problems in the family, they were in the northern hemisphere also.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say if your elder brother was in Russia, he'd have Mars in Cancer, drug abuse, use, because Mars in Cancer is like the mind is getting affected in that way because of emotional problem with family. So all that son, father, all that becomes like that. So if elder brother, let's say, went to Australia, maybe we'll be in a different situation. Who knows? Who knows? We can't say now. But that's what happened there. You can also look, I don't know if you would remember, but if 1988, around that time, may have been the first time this happened to you, if you can remember anything. But that's something for you to think about.
Yeah.
So 1988, what did I say, 2000 roughly, and 2009 roughly. So like that, this is when these things are activated. The next time this will be happening, oh, that's 2019. That's 2019. Is that right? When do you turn 40?
years from now.
Right, so 2 years before that is now. Right. The next time that happens is 2019, but most probably after your birthday in 2019. So if you're getting into
as in
this, Mars is triggered again. Okay. So what I would say is, if you're getting involved in a relationship going forward, it should be in the Southern Hemisphere. If you want to not have the same sort of Mars experience, but much better, now you have the knowledge to know where to manifest it, where to do it. So if you're traveling the next year, 2019, until your birthday next year, right? Just be aware. If you're meeting somebody and they want to meet you, meet them in somewhere in the Southern Hemisphere. Or maybe they should be from the Southern Hemisphere or something like that, where it's more on that side of the world. Because this Mars will then become exalted and won't give you the same. That Mars square Pluto is very tough, very difficult. Because what happens is that...
Sorry.
Yeah, because what happens with the Mars square Pluto in Libra, see, Mars is the 7th house ruler. It is having all these problems. It is squaring Pluto in the natural 7th sign of the zodiac also. Right? So it creates this deep fear about relationship. I don't want to be fully known by somebody. I don't trust that ability to just open up and be known by somebody fully. That's Pluto in Libra issue. Always something is kept behind because of the survival thing. Because obviously of whatever has happened. I must keep some part of me secure, not fully Libra. Yeah. So like that, the experience will sort of be conditioned. So in the Southern Hemisphere, the Mars will be squaring Pluto, but the difference is Mars is exalted and Pluto is in the sign of Mars. So it's an empowerment thing. You're getting that power from Pluto back. Because Pluto in Aries is saying, okay, where's your drive? Where's your energy? Where's your self-authenticity? And Pluto in Aries is about understanding that taking some courage and being a little bit selfish and exhibiting that level of power is not a bad thing. So and that's, I'm assuming, how it would have happened, up, down, all the time. So, okay. So this Mars is obviously affecting your impulsive career. Now, I have a rule about 10th house Cancer, is that because the moon is a reflecting principle, okay, because the moon rules the 10th house, I must not look at the 10th house. I must look at the 10th house from the moon to see what the career is going to be. So, yeah, that's just my own. I have many own mutation rules like that.
So the 3rd house.
So what's happening there? Sagittarius. So if you were to stay in the Northern Hemisphere, this only applies if you're staying in the Northern Hemisphere, okay? If you're staying in the Northern Hemisphere, then the 10th house from the moon is Sagittarius. And, well, we've got a little bit of an issue there. Neptune. I don't know what my Sagittarius path is, how my faith and my vision for my life happens in my work. I don't know. What happens is Sagittarius, I carry on learning, I carry on learning, I carry on learning. This teacher, that teacher, this other teacher. And I'm ending up being more confused.
Yeah.
Okay. And that Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter in Libra with Saturn in the 12th house. So in deep inside, there will be this feeling, to make this work, I feel like I have to be with somebody. The Jupiter, all that Libra is saying, for this to work, you must be in a relationship. Because that's Libra. But how can we do that when the ruler of the 7th house is causing all these problems all the time? You see the paradox?
Yeah.
So this is quite confusing inside. You look at charts of people that have Cancer, Mars in the 10th house. There, the 10th house from the moon has been okay. Their partner has manifested their own career for them. So people like Martin Luther King's wife had something like that. Yes, her partner died, right? He was assassinated. Okay. But she had moon in Pisces, but with Jupiter in Pisces. So the 10th house from Jupiter, 10th house from moon came to Jupiter, which was in Pisces. So she had to have a partner that was like a priest, a minister. But it was 6th house Pisces. The rest of her life was managing the Martin Luther King Charity Foundation, Pisces, you see. But Mars in the 10th house is showing, ruling the 7th house, that for this to work, you have to be in a relationship and go through whatever drama and difficult experience in the relationship. And like that, your work in the world is being defined by what's happening with your relationship. If you want a situation like that, then that is how to do it. Stay in the northern hemisphere. So, mad, yeah. Of course it should, it will. You think she enjoyed that? That's a good case because the Jupiter was in Pisces. It worked out okay in the end. Your Jupiter is with Saturn in the 12th house in Libra. That Jupiter is saying it's got a very strong Saturn requirement there, terms and conditions with a Jupiter. One, the rule of the Jupiter is in fall. The other thing is Saturn is very strong holding the Jupiter, saying you must be in this relationship. You'll feel like a prisoner, but if you'll have to be staying in that situation. It's like the partner has all the money, you see. This Mars also rules the 2nd house. That this partner has all the money. They are dominating. I am feeling imprisoned. But what can I do? Oh, what can I do? It's something like that. And I'm sure you must have had experiences like that to some degree. Okay?
Yeah.
To some degree. So, but if we go to the southern hemisphere, let's see what we can do.
Show me what that does.
So, okay, now I must say you don't have to believe what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Okay, you know all of that. But I've seen this a lot of times. So I have to tell you what I see, right?
Okay.
And we've identified the Mars issue in all those years, and those years were not peachy for you. Okay, so I can't sugarcoat it. It is what it is. So in the southern hemisphere, what is the 10th house from? Okay, in the southern hemisphere, hang on a moment. We don't need to look at the 10th house from the moon because the moon doesn't rule the career anymore. Right?
You look at Saturn?
So we look at Saturn. But hey, Saturn and Mars have an exchange. So what's happening here?
Even if Saturn is in Aries?
Yeah, Saturn, you'll have to go through the Aries for a little while. And then it's like through a bad situation, you work hard, Saturn. 9th house ruler is with Saturn. some learning, something you are studying, some whatever courses you are doing, that you are doing MBA, whatever marketing, yeah? Where do you do that course?
Well, I didn't choose to do that course. My company is just, they want me to do the course.
So you see the Saturn is with Jupiter. Saturn is saying, I'm forcing you, and Jupiter is the 9th house ruler. You must study something, right? But where is this company? Are they in the Southern Hemisphere?
It's online, so
okay.
It's an online course. That's so funny, because I had a class today, and the guy was sitting in Sydney. He has a house in Sydney. But it's an online course, which means that he records. So he records the content. You attend recordings, and then you have a one session every Friday, which is like a live session where he goes through like the different things.
So the person who's doing the course is in the Southern Hemisphere, right?
Yeah, I mean, he travels a lot for his work, but he today, and it's the first time I attend live. I usually just actually I haven't attended any of the classes until I've just missed out on a lot of classes because it's not a subject I am entirely.
Yeah. You know, Sagittarius 9th house can be marketing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Fine. So what's happening with this Jupiter is, or with the Saturn. Saturn is saying in the Southern Hemisphere, your work is tied to whatever you are learning.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel restricted by that because you have to go through that Saturn Aries situation. Saturn problem is I don't have time. Saturn controls time, yeah? Scheduling, being structured. Saturn in Aries is saying, I don't have time. Aries is saying, I want to go quick. And Saturn again, just like the Melbourne airport experience, you're being stopped. Time is the problem. Okay? So it either takes more time than you thought, you're running out of time, you don't have time, all those Aries, Saturn issues will come. But Jupiter is there ruling the 9th house. But Saturn is ruling the 10th house, so that is the nature of the experience that you have to go through. And then you get the Mars. Just like in the Melbourne airport, you have to wait for those 2 hours. You had to go through that Saturn Aries experience, and then the Mars came and saved you. So, like that, in professional life in the Southern Hemisphere, there will be something of this sort of experience of Saturn in Aries that you have to go through. Maybe it's for 2 years, you waited for 2 hours in Melbourne airport. Maybe the course situation like this you have to go through is for 2 years. Let's just say, right? Maybe whatever you start, let's say you start something this year, right? You have to go through 2 years of bullshit with that Saturn in Aries before the Mars will come. Okay? So whenever you started the course, the Saturn in Aries problem, I don't have time, I'm running behind, all this will happen. Maybe for 2 years. I'm just saying maybe for 2 years, right? And then it becomes Mars conjunct Jupiter in Aries, right? And then it becomes Saturn in Capricorn. So the course ends up actually, suddenly something changes, somebody gives you an opportunity, maybe the boss is changing all of a sudden in the company and they suddenly need somebody with that course qualification, and suddenly you're in a really good position. Suddenly. And now it's time to perform. Okay? Because Saturn goes to the 10th house, Capricorn, Mars goes to, and then what happens? Everything becomes controlled by Venus. Everything becomes, just like how I told you, Mars was controlling the sun. What happens here in the Southern Hemisphere, everything, this whole career and personal dynamic becomes controlled by Venus.
How come? Because
and
of
this,
Jupiter?
these are my own rules. So it works because
yeah, I
so
understand what you're saying because if I can share with you, like that Saturn Jupiter conjunction, I've really contemplated that a lot. And that was after the third conjunction view. So they conjuncted 3 times before they separated. And I have Saturn before Jupiter. So whatever transit is coming, it has to go through Saturn before it can expand. And so it is like whatever I am experiencing, there is like a narrow, it's compressing me. It's forcing me to go in a certain direction before it gives me something big, Whatever I do, this is how I experience it. And because it's actually, to me, I find that it has great potential because it's the third conjunction. It's post the third conjunction, which means it's no longer going backwards and forwards. And so it's finished. It's tested that. It's done that. And now it's really like it's complete and it's just moving on. But that's the sequence that it will happen always. And that's what I've experienced.
Right. Correct. Very correct. But it will all come down to this Venus. So what's happening is then we can look at that to say, well, okay, someone in the work or company, supervisor sort of energy comes and rescues you and gives you something. But suddenly you are suddenly working very big and, it's all nice. It's good. Okay. Elevated, exalted Mars, becoming Mars in Aries. Saturn becoming Capricorn Saturn. So really it's all coming down to this Venus. And what happens then? What happens then is Venus is ruling what? 7th house again? See, that is just showing that your karma is 7th house karma in this life. Whichever way we look at it, Northern Hemisphere, 7th house nonsense. Southern Hemisphere, 7th house is controlling it. Right? So what that means, whether you're in the Northern Hemisphere or Southern Hemisphere, you have to have a 7th house sort of situation happening. So, but it's better in the Southern Hemisphere. The 7th house is much better in the Southern Hemisphere. At least we can say that for sure. So what is happening here is that, let's say the boss says, oh, we need Mariam to do this, but it's like 7th house. So you're getting into a business partnership, let's say, with that work. Or you're doing sales, you're involved with other people, one-to-one, Libra. Okay?
Yeah.
Something like that. Or it can also be that through that work, or you're doing 10th house with someone who is you develop a relationship with. Or you're doing your work as a company, but you're also having a relationship at the same time. So there's various ways this can happen.
So one question.
Yeah.
So you're saying you look to the ruler of the 10th house, which is Saturn, and you count from that, the 10th house?
No, that's not the reason. I have to ask you, just trust me on that.
Okay. So what kind of, because you can tell what is the nature of work, right?
Yes, so the nature of the work is going to be very strong Saturn, Mars coming together. Action driven, like event planning, big stuff, like for the bosses and blah, blah, blah. You're handling the planning, the coordination, managing whatever big events, right? It's a lot of hard work, okay? But the good thing is that the Venus is helping a lot, okay, here in the Southern Hemisphere. The Venus is helping a lot. So let's say the work is very strenuous and it takes a lot out of you energy-wise. Saturn and Mars always will take more than they give. in terms of energy, right? But the Venus, the people you're going to be working with as partners, is making it worth it for you. They are liking you, just like in Cape Town, where everyone was like, oh yeah, we'll take you here, we'll take you there, do this for you, do that for you. It's like that, the people you'll be working with. And that will make the work more manageable.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Because that is how your life has happened
Yeah.
with this Venus. Now, you're seeing there's just a little bit of a waiting period of discomfort with that Saturn. I'm saying maybe 2 years. And then it opens up.
Yeah.
Right? And this Venus also is the second house ruler. So money will come. You could also, if you want to be, let's say in the Southern Hemisphere, because the Mars is very strong, you want to become more independent in your work. Right? I'm giving you multiple scenarios. Okay? And so this Mars says, okay, no, this Mars is in Aries, and I want to be in control of my work now. I'm going to determine my path. And I will work very hard. I'm going to put that Saturn in the 10th house because it's work I want to do. Okay? I'm going to put the structure and the discipline that I want to create this company or business or whatever. I want to do something. But what does that business look like? It's a Venus Pisces kind of business, a holistic business, a spiritual thing. 12th house Venus Pisces. I'm doing work with people, close, one-to-one, Libra, 7th house ruler. I'm doing that kind of work. That's my business. So it can also be like that. Right? So I would say that the only issue with the Southern Hemisphere is that you just have to go through this Saturn period of...
Is that the only thing you see that's maybe a little bit challenging?
Yeah, that's the only thing. I mean, what else is a problem in this chart? The Mars has not become a problem. It is ruling the chart. It's not going to hurt you. The Venus ruling the 7th house, which was such a problem in the Northern Hemisphere, is exalted and controlling is ultimately where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
It's a private thing, but in a positive way, 12th house work can be managing an ashram. It's a lot of hard work. My own holistic center, Pisces 12th house kind of thing with people. Or whatever it may be. Depending, maybe the company wants to go into a shipping side of the business and then they put you in that Pisces 12th house situation to do marketing and meeting partners and blah, blah. It can also be like that. Right? Yeah. The only Jupiter ruling the 9th house is in Aries. The only thing is that Jupiter is with an uncountable Saturn. That's all in this chart. Yes, Sun is in detriment, but so what? If the Sun is in Aquarius, don't you think you're much better connecting to astrology community here? Uranus and Saturn are ruling that Sun now.
I didn't hear you.
If the Sun is in Aquarius in the 11th house, don't you think that you connecting to groups of people that are weird, that are scientific, that are thinkers, that are astrologers, is a higher chance of happening?
Really nice.
Yeah, so there's no problem there. That Uranus is also in the 2nd house, giving you money also.
Yeah.
So Saturn now ruling the 10th and the 11th house, yes, it will give you those things eventually. And when Saturn eventually gives you those things, they will last for the rest of your life. But he's saying first you have to go through some burning.
I don't mind working with
And
you.
I'm sure Saturn in Aries is just saying you just have to overcome impatience and restlessness inside you. That Mars Aries problem inside. Why do you always want to rush? That's what he's saying. I'm going to block and stop and delay. Because maybe you have to realize and learn that you have better results in your life when you go slow.
But it's
And
interesting.
maybe you have to learn something like getting fast results actually doesn't sustain in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, those sort of things. Maybe you have to learn like, okay, even if someone's disrespecting me, it's actually, I must learn to just absorb that and put it aside and not take it personally. And then I move forward very quickly. I pass through that Saturn gate inside me.
Yeah.
So maybe it's something like that.
Actually, what is interesting is because I've lived my whole life like having to wait because nothing has ever happened. I mean, many things happened, but not what I'm talking about. Not a big movement for me of where I want to be, and even not even sure where I want to be. So actually, because I'm trained somehow to work hard and just just keep working and wait. I'm really like trained to do that in this environment. I think even if I were to go to the Southern Hemisphere and experience that, because it's something that I've experienced a lot in my life. It's not like something very frustrating to me. I mean, sometimes it can be, but it's a different energy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, I understand. You're very lucky in that you have that rule of, you have the Saturn and Mars changing signs, and Mars is taking you out each time, and that Saturn is next to Jupiter. The knowledge you get will help you. But that also means, because Jupiter rules the ninth house, you must not lose faith when that Saturn problem comes. You should keep a daily practice that connects you to God or your faith, or whatever it is, strong. You strengthen the Jupiter. That will help you go through that Saturn period. And then the Mars will come, everything will naturally sort itself out. Just like in the airport. What happened? What happened in the airport? You faced the Saturn Aries problem person. What happened? The Jupiter came inside to help you. No, let me go inside. Let me be calm. I want to lash out. That's that Saturn Aries. You could have made the problem much worse. But the Jupiter is there saying, no, take the higher road.
Yeah.
And that helped you sit for those 2 hours. And then the Mars came. So like that, it will be. So you have these 2 options for career path, I would say, based upon the 2 hemispheres. And, if career path is better in the Southern Hemisphere, relationship path is more sustainable in the Southern Hemisphere, what's the problem?
Yeah, I mean, there's no problem. The situation is very grim here.
Yeah, in the Northern Hemisphere, the chart is pretty, I mean, people, you Google search or solar fire search people that have Mars in Cancer in the 10th house and see they've gone through, either their whole life is around what their partner does, and then you do the 10th from the moon situation and see. That is how their career has gone. So-called career has gone. It's not their career, trust me. It's always about relationship stuff, either they're writing books about relationship, they're writing books about being homosexual, they're continuing the work of their partner. Okay? So if you are okay with that, then it's okay. You stay where you are and you go through that evolutionary journey. But either way, you can see whether you're in South or North, it's coming to that relationship thing. Who am I doing this relationship thing with is an important part of the karma, because it's coming up as a controlling factor in both hemispheres, in my interpretation. So, yes, and that's how your experience of life is. Whatever has happened in relationships with you has extremely conditioned inside. Extremely conditioned inside, because at some level, this is the most crucial karma to overcome in this life. So why not choose Southern Hemisphere where it is easier? You just have to go through a little bit of Saturn problem. That's my suggestion. That's my suggestion as the astrologer. Now you have to make a choice. And based on what you can do or can't do, things will be like that. So I think actually from second half of 2020, this home resident situation will come for you to consider.
So transit-wise, so that, because you also flipped the transit. So, and where would the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction Pluto?
It will be in Leo. It will be conjunct your South Node.
I mean, Cancer will be.
The Aquarius conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter will be conjunct your South Node. Southern Tropical Leo, 0 degrees conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, the end of 2020,
on my IC.
Will be conjunct the South Node.
At 0 Aquarius? Oh, it'll be, at 0,
So that shows that you're going to be changing between middle of 2020 and end of 2020, you most probably will make a decision to move home.
Yeah.
And will the move be a good move? If it's in the Southern Hemisphere, yes, because the ruler is the Sun in the 11th house. 11th house is good in Western astrology.
Okay.
The Sun rules the 5th house. For development, you're doing that. If you're staying in the Northern Hemisphere, then the result ends up with Saturn in the 12th house in Libra. And it's that paradox. Saturn is saying relationship. I'm stuck in relationship. I'm staying steady in relationship. I'm committed in relationship. Okay? That's why you see the Jupiter rules the 3rd house. The younger sibling is a very important relationship for you.
Yeah.
Okay? But that can happen in other ways. Because that Jupiter also rules the 10th house from the 10th sign from the moon in the Northern Hemisphere, which rules your 10th house. That is the nature of your 10th house in the Northern Hemisphere. I'm tied to the situation. I'm committed to this job. I can't get out. Just like how your relationship with your younger brother is, your relationship with the career will be like that too. Through a relationship like that.
That is so...
Yeah, I mean, we are always shown how to do our life. The guidance is always there in our face. It's like that. But it will end up with Venus in Virgo. So, and that is ruling the charts. You're going to feel very self-critical about it. So I'm being very committed, and I'm very committed. Saturn in Libra, and it's good for me, good for me, good for me. But I'm becoming increasingly dissatisfied inside. Why? Because Mercury rules that Venus. I'm not independent in Leo. Where is my respect? I'm not getting that. I can't speak my truth. This Mercury problem. My mind gets more and more depressed. 29 degrees Leo Mercury. And then maybe you have to go to Peru every 2 years to sort yourself out. Yeah. So I'm not saying staying in the Northern Hemisphere is bad, but that Mars is really a problem in the Northern Hemisphere, as you've experienced in those years I told you. Okay.
Yes, I totally, I don't doubt this for a second, I tell you, because I don't know, I have a sense of things, and I mean, I've lived 38 years already, so I kind of know what I went through in my life.
You know, that's why. And without you telling me, I told you what those years were.
Yeah.
And this 2019, 2020 is another year when that Mars is activated.
Yeah.
So if you are in a relationship with people you need,
but see, what if I stay away from that kind of stuff?
Then it's fine. Just come to the Southern Hemisphere a lot. Maybe for your birthday, you should have your birthday in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Your solar return. Maybe, I don't know. Things to think about.
Because I'm actually on the 6th of August. I have to go to a conference in South Africa.
Oh yes, I'm actually doing a Vedic astrology workshop on the 4th of August.
Are you?
Yeah, no, the 3rd of August. Yeah, the 4th of August, which is the Sunday. And the 3rd of August, the day before that, I've organized with the priest at the temple to do a Navagraha Puja for all the planets. So anybody who's coming to the workshop, the Saturday, 3rd of August, they will all be at the temple doing the prayer, the ritual.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I am totally, okay, so you're definitely actually participating in this event, and I told them, like, because normally, Theo, any chance I have to go to Africa, I'll beg them, like.
But
really.
I bet you that it's only Africa below the equator.
I've actually only been, well, Kenya is kind of.
Kenya is north, but the funny thing with Kenya is Nairobi, the capital, is like on the equator.
Yes, so Mombasa is lower. Mombasa.
Yeah, so if Mombasa is south of Nairobi, it is in the southern.
Yeah, because I've also experienced interesting things there.
Yeah.
Mombasa.
Yeah. Sorry. I will have to leave you soon because that's a call I have to take. But okay, anything else?
No, thank you very much.
I hope you have more clarity now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And it's funny because this is something I would not have been able to tell you if I had not done my Southern Tropical research.
Yeah.
So it's all sort of coincidental.
Not coincidental. It's really not. It's not coincidental.
It's not. But this is actually a very good example, to show people how the Southern Tropical is working. But yeah. You can't actually show people this because you got your birth date and all this. But it's good.
I don't mind if you want to share my charts. I don't mind at all.
No, I mean, I can't put this video unless you're okay with putting this consultation up online, or maybe parts of it. But we think about that later. Let's see what happens on Facebook in the next couple of weeks. Some people are showing.
Say anybody's name or anything like that. So
we haven't said anybody's name. We haven't. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Actually, we haven't.
Yeah, I didn't say anything.
Yes. Yeah. We didn't go into. See, This is why I don't like astrologers. That first thing they'll talk about is Pluto. First thing they talk about are all the problems in your chart. Why? You know. But
Yeah.
anyway, so
Yeah.
the
Take it to your.
Saturn, the Sun is strong for you, but it's controlled by the Mars, and that is the issue. Why you have not. So all those people that said the Sun is strong, do 11th house, it will just happen. No, you have a block from the Mars in the northern
You do.
hemisphere, and that's what you've experienced. So
Yeah.
okay, okay.
Thank
So good luck.
you.
Wish you all the
Thanks.
best.
This is really, really helpful. Very helpful. Thanks.
Yes,
And yeah,
yes.
I'm sit with it, and because I know inside, I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, and
Mm.
it's change is scary, you know. But I'm really, I'm actually more scared of the transits that are coming forth if I stay in my place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, before Saturn reaches the nodal axis for you, I would suggest you be in a different place.
mhm, yeah,
That's just my 2 cents.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. I feel that. I feel.
Huh. Yeah. Okay, so I'll send you the recording as usual,
Okay.
and thank you for trusting me with this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. That was really
All
helpful.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
take care.
You.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care.